Did you know that you can mail us a physical copy of your comic? Yeah, a little old school, but physical comics will get review priority over digitally submitted material. Also, you don't need to wait for a review submission window for you to send in a physical comic. You can mail those into our P.O. box at any time. And the same does go for like press or press release or advanced copy stuff that is sent to us as an ebook. That also goes to the front of the line as well. But submitting such comics is by no means a guarantee of a review or guarantee of a timely review. See our website for more details. Why do I bring this up? Well, it's because this week's book was actually mailed to us a while ago to our P.O. Box, and here's the video review for it. It's 13 Legends, Volume 1 by John Eastman and Stuart Thomas. And you can also find more of their stuff at 13legends.com, 13legends.com. I should note that there is a webcomic version of this, where I grabbed most of the images for this review from, but I will not actually be reviewing the webcomic or reviewing the physical book. So I'll be reviewing its physical presentation and its physical form as well. The cover in the book itself wasn't very impressive. The color texture it's a textured dull tan or granite-like, and it doesn't really pop. And I get the whole thing with there's like 13 stars here, but one is highlighted, and so I get the impression this is volume 1 of 13. The other problem with this is that the image is not centered properly. I think it's because it's horizontally centered in the image, but they didn't count for the crimp of the actual book. And so you can tell that it looks off center, so it looks a little weird. It's a nice looking overall, sort of like this is a nice book. But as far as a comic book, you wouldn't be able to tell if it was a comic book or anything. If this was sitting on the shelf in a comic book store, it would likely be passed over. It doesn't look that impressive. And so this is more of a book that you buy because you already know what's in it. This is not likely to grab people that have, hey, what's 13? Okay. Oh, look, there's this shiny, colorful book over there. That's basically my main beef with the cover. Otherwise, fairly solid. It's a hard cover, not soft cover, so it has some shelf value for that respect, especially if they are going to be doing a 13-volume set. This could look pretty cool on the shelf. So let's take a look inside, shall we? First, I must say one thing I want to note about the art, that it does look different between the webcomic version and the print version. I mean notably. It comes right down to the richness of the colors and the sharpness. The book feels a little dulled and kind of fuzzy. It's not as crisp as the webcomic version. A lot of time when you go from digital to print, there is a conversion process, though if you color in CMYK mode, it's much less of a notable difference than if you color in RGB. Not to say that you can't have a conversion that looks decent, but the art, I'm not familiar with this, but it could be that the paper in the book wasn't thick enough to absorb as much color ink that was in this, but it could really just be the RGB to CMYK version. In any case, I'm saying that before seeing the webcomic version, this version didn't feel right. It felt like there was a conversion problem because of just how dark and not bold some of the colors were and how fuzziness. The biggest issue was that the evening and night scenes in the book, it's so muddy, it's so dark, and it's very difficult to see, especially if you got a glare on the page. But the webcomic version, the digital version, you can actually see much clearer. It's like, oh, that's a brighter green versus this just looks like almost gray. It's certainly an issue, and hopefully that's something that they'll look at and fix in the future volumes of this book. Still, aside from like the technical aspects of the print inking, the art is actually very solid. My biggest beef, though, with the art are that actions don't feel dynamic enough. The scenes that are supposed to convey movement, they look like people are really drawn in frozen poses for the action sequences. There doesn't feel like there's enough weight carried behind a punch, or a gun being fired, or jumping over a ledge. It feels very stiff. Not to say that you can't use people to pose for you and draw that, but the follow through doesn't feel there. It doesn't feel like there is action. It feels stiff. As far as the style of the art, I mean, there is tons of stuff everywhere. There's no fading into a vague color background here. There's hefty amount of detail in every page. Foregrounds, characters, backgrounds. Though sometimes I do feel like it's a little cramped. Sometimes I wish there was more room or the panels were bigger to give a better feel for the surroundings or the actions that are taking place. Sometimes it just feels really cramped, but it really looks good. I really don't have a big issue with the styling of the comic, but I would still press on improving how action sequences look. I mean, really. All right, on to the story. If I were reading this as a webcomic, the first several pages would be very annoying because it's this sort of procedural, slow update. Because it's designed as a prologue, as a lead-in for the real meat of the comic. But I'm not reviewing the webcomic, I'm reviewing the book. And when you have all the pages right there, it actually flows pretty well. Flipping through the pages, you get scenes that go through history, sort of with captions that sort of describe how things are happening, leading us from history to present day in the comic. The most interesting part of this prologue is how the history unfolds. It's like a real history, but then something happens. It starts with a wait, and then you go, something happened to the timeline. Technology has been advanced so much in history, so much that history actually changes because of it. And I don't even think there's a United States of America in this because of that. I mean, think of how history would have played differently if we had the Industrial Revolution in 1610, or the Inca had bullets and guns to fire against the invading Spanish. It's really, really interesting at this point, so I'm really hooked into this. I love stuff like this. It's kind of like the game Civilization, if you've ever played that, where you have one player that has like an advanced, like modern, like mech and armored trucks and tanks and everything, and then they go attack another civilization that only has bows and arrows. It's kind of funny like that, and I kind of wonder if Civilization had was in the back of their minds a little bit when they were writing this or not. It just kind of seems like that. I really love the place setting. Okay, in any case, something is afoot. We come along with the comic's protagonists Arthur and Lancelot, so clearly a bit of possible fairy tale exists with the modified history, though historians agree that King Arthur did exist, but likely not as many legends suggest, but I don't think that really matters for this book. These two are basically in what one would consider a colonial time period and attire. The weaponry in this age includes bomber planes and tanks, though. A major plot point of this book is the revelation of another advancement in technology, sure to turn the tide of power in the world. Then we are introduced to more intrigue. Sorry, not going to spoil this. No spoilers. In any case, this comic is just filled with build-up, questions, action, and plot seeds. And it's something I definitely want to keep up with this comic as it progresses. Very, very interesting. Great book. I am following the webcomic at 13legends.com. Once again, that's 13 Legends, Volume 1 by John Eastman and Stuart Thomas. And that's it for this week's review. I only got 3 more video reviews before I'm going to pause doing video reviews. And we're going to be just doing, I'm just going to be doing text reviews on the website because I need to save my video time for a brand new Webcast Beacon Network show that will hopefully be coming out in 2015. And that is it. See you next time.